Plenty of seats up front.
If any of you see Dr. JJ?
Yes, right there.
Where?
Right there in the hat.
Oh!
He looks a little different on Zoom.
I've never seen him.
Okay, we're going to get started. And we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could get everybody to stand. Flag is right behind me here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and today was Flag Day. Oh, that's true. It is. Okay, we're going to start with the roll call, and Christina Curry cannot be here tonight. Sue Lewis, our second vice president, is going to take over. He's going to call your civic association, and please identify yourself, say your name, so he knows that you are the representative or the alternate for your civic association. Thank you.
Remember when you have a representative designated and we're going to have calling the names of the application. I would like to hear back when you say present your name to determine if it's the alternate or the rep. One of those persons are here, even though they may be somebody from the association, they're not authorized. Oh, okay. Now,
You gotta speak into the mic, Luis.
anybody heard me? Okay. So first, Val Harbor HOA. Beverly Heights Neighborhood Association. Birch Park. Central Beach Alliance. Bill Brown? Yes. Okay, thank you. Central City Alliance. Okay. Cody Hammock.
Jim Brady, representative.
Coral Ridge Country Club. Coral Ridge Association. Okay. Coral Ridge Isles.
Rick Buchanan, president.
Thank you. Coral Shores Civic Association.
That was me, president.
Croissant Park. Dolphin Isles. Downtown Lauderdale Civic Association. I think that's you.
Here, Melinda, representative.
Edgewood Civic Association. Flagler Village Civic Association. Gold Mile. Golden Heights. Harbordale.
Marilyn Mamato,
Thank you, ma'am. Harbor Beach. Harbor Inlet. Historic Dorsey River Bend. Home Beautiful. Idlewild. Imperial Point. Ms. Sherry? Lake Hale Civic Association. Landings Residential Association. Yes, your name? Paul Van Eisen? We were checking and see how it was. Okay. Lauderdale Beach. Thank you. Lauderdale Harbors Improvement Association. Lauderdale Civic. Thank you. Lauderdale Manors. Thank you. Okay, yes, I know you. Mass District. Melrose Manors. Kathy? Yes. Middle River Terrace Neighborhood Association.
We have a quorum.
Normie Isles. No? Palm Air Village 1. Thank you. Poinsett Heights. James, thank you. Poinsett Park. Progresso Village.
Here.
JJ. Rio Vista, that's Christina Curry, and she's not here today. That's why I'm doing this. River Garden Suite State. Yeah, okay. Okay. Riverland Preservation Society. River Landings HOA. Thank you. River Landings. No, sorry. Riverside Park. Rock Island. Frankie. Sailboat Bend. Yes. Sailboat Bend. Seven Isle. Shady Banks.
Representative
Sunrise Intercoastal, Mr. Plankanen. South Middle River, me. Tarpon River Civic Association.
Here, Lucy Cummings.
Hi, Brucey. Victoria Park. Thank you. So we do have quorum. Bermuda Riviera Purist, oh, sorry. I mentioned the association. I swear to God I did.
Luis Michael Albetta, Lake Ridge Civic Association. I know you love me.
Yes, you're here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, did we miss anybody else?
Well, hold on.
Go ahead. Golden Heights.
Golden Heights, Sharon Alexander, okay.
What are the three of you doing over there?
Okay.
There's all these seats up front by me. All right.
Love it there.
You have to excuse me. Look at this font. Okay?
All right, did we get everybody that's in the room? Okay, good.
How about a round of applause for Louis?
Okay, a round of applause for Louis, please. He's never done this before.
The gold star.
All right, we're going to move right along here. And I want to honor somebody. Some of you who are new may not know that throughout the entire pandemic, if you can remember what the beginning of that was like, we had the honor of having, I only know to call you Dr. JJ, but I think it's Dr. Ratner. Is that the correct? Writer, okay. Who came to every one of our meetings, virtual meetings, and gave us the scoop on what's going on and how to wear a mask and should you be inside or outside or how often should you wash your hands. And I don't know how many of you that are my age might have been a little bit concerned about kicking the bucket. I certainly was. So Dr. JJ came and I have a little thing to say. Dear Dr. JJ, a very small number of us didn't make it through COVID, but the majority of us did. I give a lot of credit to your expertise and advice on everything from masks to positivity percentages and to vaccines and keeping us safe. Thank you for being more than a good doctor. You were a good listener. We value the fact that your attitude was exceptional and you answered all our questions no matter how dumb they were. Thank you for your effective analysis. Thanks for sharing so much care and concern to come to every one of our meetings. Thank you for keeping us all sane during the height of the pandemic and even now. You have been much more to us than a doctor. You have been our therapist, friend, and an angel in disguise when we were scared. And we were scared. Good doctors know how to prescribe the most important drug of all, a positive attitude. And thanks for doing that. Thank you for keeping us informed on the latest developments. And Dr. JJ, thanks for volunteering and attending, by what I counted, at least 24 council meetings, which is a lot. I know, you didn't know that, did you?
Wow.
Apart from your MD, I certify that you have the following skills: good listener, lots of patience, and a caring attitude. With that, I hope you have a taste for some terrific Italian food from my favorite restaurant, Cafe Vico. And this is from the council, not just from me, it's from the whole council.
Bravo!
And thank you.
Bravo!
Really, thank you so much. And this is enough for a good dinner for you and your wife, and maybe your kids if they don't eat too much. All right. So, any parting words of advice?
In many aspects, the worst is behind us. Now, don't let things fool you. There are still over 100,000 people that are getting sick on a regular basis now. We're actually seeing more people getting sick of COVID now than at any other point during the pandemic. But things have changed. People don't end up in the hospital. People don't end up in ICU. People don't end up on ventilators or die. Yes, there are still about an average of 300 people dying a day, but that's not what we saw at the height of the pandemic. So what has changed? Maybe a component of people getting vaccinated, maybe a component of natural immunity, people getting infections. Maybe there is a component that we understand the disease a little bit better. Maybe the virus has changed a little bit from what it was before. But whatever it may be, at least now we can see people's faces again, we can gather again, and we can continue enjoying our lives. I mean, we can't forget the toll that has taken on all of us, but don't remember the toll it has taken on our children. So, you know what? I think we need to all pat ourselves on the back a little bit, smile, and life continues.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes?
Can I just say something as a former nurse? I remember when the pandemic first started.
Well, you know, I really like you to have the microphone, otherwise it does not record.
Thank you. Dr. JJ, as a former ICU and ER nurse, obviously I was freaked out about COVID, and I was so happy that you educated us and spent the time. But what I particularly remember is you had the guts, if I can say it that way, to step out, be progressive, decide that you've read something in Israel or somewhere and that ivermectin can save lives. And you move forward with people saying that we don't think that's right. And I know you saved a lot of lives, and I will never forget that, and I respect you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, 1 million. All right, next on the agenda, we're going to switch places. Is the commissioner ready, Erica? Do you know? Okay. Commissioner Moranis had something come up. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is, so I won't. But she wants to go a little early, and she is going to come to us virtually. And there she is. Well, welcome. You go right ahead.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me virtually. I know we've asked all boards to go back in person, so I feel horrible not leading by example. So forgive me right away for that. And yes, I will tell you all what I'm doing. You all know I'm done in November, and I did mention in my letter I was going back to education. I did officially accept a position. I will be teaching AP Government and Politics. So I'm excited about that. And but unfortunately, I had to take an all-week training in order to learn how to teach the class. So I was home all week, all day and all week, getting ready. But enough of that. I will miss you all. It's interesting. I can tell who you are without even seeing your faces. I could tell that was Jackie just by listening to her. I couldn't even see. So I've really come to know you all. You are the leaders in our community. You represent our neighborhoods, our civic associations, and it's just been such an honor to work with a lot of you here in the room tonight. And I will always be thankful for you, and I will always continue to serve and help our city even when I am not the elected official, just like you all do today. It's interesting that, thank you, Doctor, for everything you did with COVID. And, it is fitting Tuesday, we will recognize one of our presidents who we lost during COVID, P.O.I. Racy, the president of the Galt Mile Association. Many of you know, we are bringing a resolution to the commission on Tuesday because Representative Chip LaMarca was able to get the Florida Department of Transportation to name a portion of the road in the Galt P.O.I. Racy Memorial Drive. So we will recognize him and vote on that on Tuesday. So we are sad about those who we lost during COVID, but thankful for those who were able to help. And I definitely appreciate you all stepping up. So I want to just touch on a few things that I've been working on. I'll continue to work on. I do have 5 months, so I do plan on working and finishing strong right until the end, until November. I do want to say, I think there are a few people in the room who, I probably can't talk about who's running. I'm not going to mention that because you guys are officially on city business. But I hope you have a candidate forum. I'm sure, Mary, are you going to have a candidate forum?
Yes.
The Civic Association?
Yes.
Yes, we're having one.
Okay.
You can't see me. I don't know why I'm looking at you, but
I can see you, so you're perfect, yeah.
there you are. Okay, August 9th, we're having one for all the judicial candidates and the school board candidates that are part of the Fort Lauderdale school system at the new Y on Sistrunk. And then in October, we're going to have another candidate forum for all the people running for commission seats.
Okay, super. I'm not sure the exact date, but the mail-in ballots might be mailed in. Yeah, hopefully that timeline works. It's probably about a month before, maybe 2 months before. So I'm sure you'll look at that. But a lot of people vote by mail in our city too. So let's just make sure we get these candidates in front of you all so you can hear from them, because we have 3 commissioners leaving. So this is a big deal. And we're thankful. We're going to have our mayor and Commissioner Glassman continue. But three commissioners leaving is definitely a big deal. We have a lot of great candidates, and like I said, I know a couple of them are in the room tonight. So I wish you all the best in your upcoming election. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that are still going on. Once again, I'm working on. Lockhart Park is I believe very important to this entire city and also District 1. We were going to have a presentation last week about what Inner Miami plans to build on the 20 acres that was going to be a park. We didn't quite get to it because I'm not sure if what they proposed was a good match to what we voted on in July 3 years ago. We did vote on a map of what the park would look like, and then the comprehensive agreement also outlined the different elements that would be in the 20-acre park that Inner Miami would build and pay for, some of which are a few community fields, a walking path, dog parks, passive parks. The city was going to supplement that and also build a splash pad and a community center. So we're still trying to kind of figure out exactly what Inner Miami is going to build and pay for. My understanding, the commission will obviously decide when we meet next week. This will be a conference item again. I believe the commission, I will suggest that the commission have Inner Miami build whatever they were supposed to build because the comprehensive agreement gave them a 3-year deadline. Their deadline is this July. That deadline was to have the parks built. I know it's not going to be built by then, but they should at least be able to get started somewhat close to that date. And I'm just going to ask that they come in and build whatever they were supposed to based on the comprehensive agreement. And then on a parallel path, the city can start with the plans for the community center. We've talked about the second level of the community center possibly being an esports space. Esports is a growing activity, a trend for our youth. And I do believe there's some value in it. It's not just like video games. A lot of the industries of the future are tied to this gaming industry. Even the airplanes, you need, it's just like a computer, almost like a video game now, even driving an airplane. So I believe there's some value to having an esports arena. So we're going to look at that also. I don't know what that would look like. We'd probably try to find a partner. Another opportunity we're exploring at the same time. Once again, Inter Miami can just come in and build whatever they want, and we'll keep exploring this as a city. We've talked about a skateboard park, but a regional skateboard park. Skateboarding is now an Olympic sport, and I believe it would complement nicely all the other sports we brought to the city the past few years, from the Aquatic Center to the Panthers to Inter Miami. We're really building a world-class city with a lot of sporting opportunities. So skateboarding, I think, would be a natural fit. Once again, that space could, skateboard park is not very large. The footprint's not very big. So once again, we have 20 acres. I believe that would fit as well. So the city's going to look at the community center, esports, possibly skate park. At least that's what I've been recommending all along. For the past year and a half, that's what I've been discussing with the city manager. I have brought it up to the commission. No one's objected to it. So we'll see what actually happens. But hopefully we nail that down before I'm done in November. I think that would be a really great destination park out there. And I know people would drive to it if we just build all the right elements and components. Mary, do you want me to keep speaking and then I could answer questions at the end? Or stop and see if there are any questions about that item?
Well, do we have any questions as far as Lockhart Park? Nope, we don't. So I think you can go ahead.
Okay, super. I'll keep going. And if you think of any questions, I know, Mary, you can cut me off when you need to. But if you have any questions or you think of anything, just think about those then at the end. The other big project in District 1 is the Galleria Mall. We had a rather large, about 300 people, some of you I'm sure are there, attend a meeting at the Galleria Mall where the development team gave a presentation of what they'd like to do. And we'll see what happens with that. I know there are also some people in the room that understand the process, the planning and zoning process. And so the Galleria, the one part of it that may be a little tricky to navigate is they'd like to bring a development agreement before a site plan. It's not typically what we do in the city. Typically we approve a site plan. So that's something I'm just kind of trying to really understand myself. I'm not sure how I really feel about that. So that's a big part of it. They are building about 1,900 units. That's a lot of units for that space, and I think you all know where the space is off of Sunrise. Someone put it nicely when they said 1,900 units on that space really combines the neighborhood of Sunrise Intercoastal and the neighborhood of Coral Ridge. If you add those two neighborhoods together, you have about 2,000 people. So we put the same amount of people on that little footprint. So it's pretty dense. I have asked them to reduce the density. When they came to us a few years ago, they've come a few times now. I believe this is the third time. The last plan that they proposed, I believe, had about 1,200 units. So you can see that it's a bigger jump. And then one thing that they have changed, that I asked them to change at the public meeting we had, is they were going to ask for an outdoor I'm going to probably use the wrong word. It's not really an outdoor entertainment district, but it allows outdoor music and drinking until 2 a.m. So call it whatever you will. So it was called some name. But they didn't have to get a special event permit. They didn't have to get anything like that. And I just said, there's really no way we can have outdoor music and alcohol until 2 a.m. right in the middle of all of these neighborhoods. So I believe they are getting rid of that. So those are the two biggest concerns I have about the Galleria Mall project. And if you were there, you probably heard them talking. I don't know if Jim Buchanan's there or he has, or Chris Williams, they have a lot of information about it as well. And so we will continue to navigate this. I do believe it's going to be something I'm going to vote on in the next couple of months. They really want this development agreement to be voted on soon. And part of the development agreement guarantees the amount of units they can develop. So we just have to kind of get a better deal. So, anybody have any questions about the Galleria?
Hey, hang on for a second. Yep.
Commissioner Bill Brown, President of Central Beach. First of all, thank you for your service. I know you're not our district commissioner, but you're our neighbor and we interact a lot, especially on the Barrier Island. How many development agreements are you aware of where the developers ask for an agreement prior to the site plan being approved by the DRC and the planning and zoning? Because I'm concerned that that's a slippery slope we start going down with these projects.
I agree with you. And to my knowledge, there's one, and that was Pier 66. And that was by the same attorney. And maybe, I don't know if Chris Lauterbloom's, I believe he's speaking after me. Maybe if he has any knowledge that I have forgotten. So I agree with you. It just doesn't make sense. So we have to figure that one out. Any other questions related to that? Thanks, that was a good question.
Any other questions? Yep, one more.
Michelle Jenkins, Historical Dorsey River Bend. You mentioned the 3 items that you would like to see at Lockhart. You didn't say anything about the school, the aviation school.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I've been working on aviation programs really since I started in partnership with Broward College and Broward County Public Schools, one of which we started at Atlantic Technical College. It's an avionics program, and the partnership is the businesses at FXE, the executive airport, provide some apprenticeship opportunities for the students. So we hired a consultant and we've been planning and researching what would be the next phase. The consultant gave us an update and said an airframe and power plant training facility, career technical opportunities is really a much needed, high demand skill that we are not meeting in this area. So we met again with Broward County Public Schools, Broward College, and a team at the city, and we talked about what it would look like for our next steps. At that time, it was decided, and Rufus from the executive airport mentioned that there's a 4-acre parcel of land within the FXE footprint that they decided would probably be a better spot to build any career technical opportunity. There's probably a little bit more land or maybe about the same amount. So we are, the consultant that we hired will proceed to the next phase to explore what the program opportunities would look like on that 4-acre parcel of land within the FXE footprint, so across the street from Lockhart Park. And we may expand it and have some more opportunities and more trainings. I know I heard at one point someone mentioned maybe even an aviation high school. So we just have to see we didn't do a needs assessment for a full high school, so I don't know what the needs are yet, but the consultant will look at that. So there are some opportunities, and I know airframe and power plant will definitely be part of it. There could be something like droning I mean, like cybersecurity. There are a lot of industries around the aviation industry, and using the technology and, the STEM programs that we could incorporate into this program. It just really depends what our educational partners want to do. So the city of Fort Lauderdale, our contribution would really be the executive airport, making the connections between the businesses and the students. But the educational partners really have to run with the programming in terms of designing it, building it, maintaining it, operating it. So we will help them try to get opportunities from the state to build the facility, because that's where Broward College and Broward County Public Schools, they do not have dollars earmarked from the state to build new facilities, but they do have dollars earmarked to operate them. So that's kind of what our partnership is looking at. We've had a lot of conversations around the career technical opportunities. We've had conversations with the state. It does seem to be something the state and the federal government is funding at this point. So that's where we're moving. Sorry, that was a long answer to why didn't I mention the school when I talked about Lockhart. The answer is it's going to be across the street from Lockhart. And they're exploring it. I probably won't have the opportunity to vote on that. I may have the opportunity to vote on an interlocal agreement between the city and Broward County Public Schools and Broward College. So possibly, I'm working on that with our city attorney right now, and Zoe Saunders and Chris, of course.
Okay, one more question, I think, here.
Hi, Heather. Thank you again for your pre-agenda meeting last Monday on the gallery. It was very nice of you to host that, and it was very informative. I did want to point out one thing about Pier 66. I know you said that was perhaps the only other developers agreement that came first, but remember that project involved city land in terms of what went underneath 17th Street, connecting the two parcels. So of course the city had to get involved with that first, and of course they should have a developers agreement. And also, please remember that the sales property, which is part of that, came with vested rights. That came with an approved site plan. That came with the amount of units. So I really think that that's, not apples to apples. And I am concerned that private development doing a developer's agreement first is a dangerous precedent for our city. But my question is, I did get your letter thanking us for attending, and you said you were able to get significant changes implemented to make this a better project for our area. Were there any other changes that were contemplated other than the event lawn, not having to go through this special permit process? I know we talked a lot about the type of units, the size of the units, more so just in the number of units, but I think that's a concern to the people who were there that evening is, what are we looking at? A Flagler Village? Are we looking at an Amory?
Sure. And I agree with you, and this is the danger of approving the development agreement before the site plan, because we just don't know, and nor will they tell us. They're just being very vague. They won't tell me. I think also because they're building it in phases. If the market changes, then maybe a different parcel will turn into something else. I do know, originally they came in and asked for flex units. I don't know if you all remember that conversation. And almost 2,000 flex units, which pretty much takes the entire pool of flex units from the city of Fort Lauderdale. And that received a lot of pushback from a lot of different people. So they have, I don't know how it's going to work, but they have said verbally that they won't take any flex units, and they'll just do the payment in lieu of. So that way they won't really just eat up those other projects that may be in the queue already that are hoping to get the flex units. 90% of that parcel needs flex units. 90% of it, that number might not be quite accurate. Most of the parcel is commercial. So in order to build residential and commercial, you need flex units. So they don't have really anything by right. You mentioned sales on the south end of Pier 66. Yes, that was an approved site plan. This parcel really needs site plan, or needs the flex units. So when we run out of flex units, and this is a conversation you probably heard us have also, there are no more. So I think we have around 1,500 flex units left in our city. When they run out, then we would probably fall under the Geller Amendment, and this is something I still think we're working on, which means you have to build a certain amount of affordable housing units in your development, and if not, then you do it's not payment in lieu of taxes, you just pay. You pay into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and I think it's about $10,000 a unit, so it's quite a hefty fee. So they have agreed to pay as opposed to using the flex units, which would basically, like I said, wipe out all flex units in our city. So that was big, maybe not for neighbors, because it doesn't matter for neighbors to really understand that, but it did matter for a lot of other people that kind of got upset about it. So once again, I don't know what they're coming with. So that's really probably why we need the site plan before the development agreement.
Okay, we have one more question, just one more. A real quick one. I don't know.
I'll try to be quick.
It was very good. It was interesting that they have backed off on the flex units and going to use the Geller Amendment units, which I don't know if everybody in the room is aware that the Geller Amendment changed all of our commercial zones to de facto mixed-use zones if you build affordable housing. The principle is lovely. But in reality, payment in lieu of means that the local community will get the congestion and traffic of the additional units, and they will not necessarily get the benefit of the affordable units because that money then goes into a trust fund, which can be used for a number of things, not only affordable housing. So I would just bring it to your attention that it might be more advantageous to have some of the flex units actually developed in the neighborhood so that the lady who cuts my hair and the secretary for my accountant and maybe even me on a fixed income could use those affordable housings in the neighborhood. Taking all the units and just giving the money to a trust fund, you might want to look at that a little more carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. And thank you. You know, it's people like you all that keep me up to date on a lot of important issues and conferences and just to help me make informed decision. And Marilyn's a great example. You know, she sent me some information about accessory dwelling units today. What's in this conversation we're going to have with the city of Fort Lauderdale that I brought up last week. And some of you all might not like it, but I'll tell you what I brought up. Victoria Park has it. They were called granny flats, but now the county's looking at this, and the city of Fort Lauderdale would need to pass an ordinance. What it would mean is you could build an accessory dwelling unit in your backyard to use for affordable housing. And so I know that's going to kind of shock everyone right now. We'll unpack it later. It's a much bigger conversation, but we'll unpack that later. We are looking into it, the city of Fort Lauderdale, and a lot of cities, counties around our entire country are looking into this. So we are exploring it at the city level. Also, just like Marilyn said, you know, people need to kind of live in our city too. We can't just say pay the $10,000 and, you know, we'll put you somewhere else.
Okay, Commissioner, one last question and we'll let you get back to studying, okay?
Yeah.
Hi. I just want to point out that somewhere earlier in the world, we had commercial zoning because that was supposed to be to add services to the local people. We take away all of our commercial zoning and put up hospitality and maybe a little coffee shop or something else that's not providing services, and it's completely bypassing what was done 50 years ago, which actually was a good idea. I mean, we have enough housing. It wasn't God's given right that everyone in the world has to live in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, I understand. I understand with your comment. So what we are doing now is more of a mixed use, so that kind of like think of New York City or other places where the bottom floor is the commercial, and then above that will be some residential. So since we are out of land in Broward County, unless we kind of tear down, we have the Everglades and the ocean. I also agree with transportation solutions where people could take trains and a light rail and maybe come out from the different cities out west and work in our city. So I think it's a combination of a few factors, transportation that connects to other housing in different cities. I agree, we don't need it all in Fort Lauderdale. We probably need a little bit more. I've done a lot of studying about homelessness, and basically we can just back up and say homelessness is a housing crisis. And that's a much bigger statement to unpack too. But we do need to provide ample housing so that we do have the workers and the workforce and keep our housing reasonably priced.
Well, Commissioner, thank you very much. I guess I'm going to look at you here. Bye. Thank you very much, and congratulations on getting that AP teaching job. I want you to know my kids took those classes at WA, and they absolutely hated them.
Thank you very much.
But they like the rest of school. So thank you for spending this time with us and answering our questions, and have a great evening.
Thank you. All right, see you all soon. Bye-bye.
Boy, this is kind of like the meeting of the last. So next, if I could get our city manager to come up here to talk to us one more time, tell us what's going on, and then I have a few things to say to him myself.
Can I borrow that?
Yes, absolutely.
Talk loud. What's everybody's pleasure? Oh, it's being recorded, so great. Good evening, everybody. How are you? Good. I'm good. The commissioner there just threw all sorts of bombs, and then she left. She threw homelessness out there and development patterns in residential neighborhoods, and then she's gone. Okay. I thought tonight I'd talk a little bit about what's current, a little bit about the condition of the city as we're finally seeing ourselves into summer, some of the projects that are nearing completion. But I want to start with what we'll be seeing for the first time next week with the commission. It's already been seen by our staff and the Budget Advisory Board, and that is the projected budget for fiscal year 23. That is put together at this point. It's a budget that's balanced. Honestly, it was probably the easiest budget I've gotten to balance since having the opportunity to serve as the manager in Fort Lauderdale. So that's a good thing. But a lot of that is driven by the fact that property values are just up tremendously in South Florida generally, but in Fort Lauderdale specifically. When we got our preliminary tax digest back, when Marty came and talked about it, it was just over 12.5% increase over last year. And when we got that number earlier this month, that is what will be happening in fiscal year 23. I think it's a year that we can put a lot of money and invest in capital projects. It's a budget that was built around delivering the basic services that we need with not a lot of elaborate enhancements. There are some requests for enhancements in areas that I think we've not looked at in the last couple of years, and this year we have the opportunity to do that. But it's largely driven by making sure that we stay focused on the fact that there's a built Fort Lauderdale, and we need to keep that Fort Lauderdale strong for the future. We caught ourselves a couple of years ago, as you can remember, with some infrastructure that catastrophically failed. And a lot of that was because we simply just didn't pay the time and investment into keeping it in a condition that we were ready to avoid that failure. So it had to fail for us to figure out that we needed to take it and take a different posture on how we maintained our infrastructure. So a lot of what you'll see as you look in that budget that'll be delivered next week is a focus on capital projects in Fort Lauderdale. I can tell you the commission will have to decide what their maximum millage rate is the meeting in July. That's July 5th. All indications is that will hold flat for the 16th consecutive year at 4.1193. There's really, I can't make a sound recommendation with the revenues where they are that the commission should even look at an increase in that in this year. And I'm also politically wise enough to know that when more than a majority of your commission is either leaving or running for other things, that's the wrong year to even talk about millage rate increase. So we're going to be pragmatic, and we're going to be honest with everybody as we present the budget that I think will serve the city very well, but that accomplishes everything we need to do and doesn't seek to do anything with the millage rate in the 16th year. I will tell you, and I've been watching it pretty closely as we've done revenue estimating and making predictions for the future as to what different services cost, the cost to provide some of the services that we consume that are market driven are generally going up. So the cost of sanitation collection, for example, industry-wide, nationwide, those costs are accelerated. They're accelerated to the point that our current vendor notified us of their intent not to renew with us in 2023. And that typically happens when they have a contract that they feel as though it is one that they can't continue to perform and make money with. So as we go back to the competitive market for 2023, I would anticipate that the cost of sanitation collection would increase. I don't know by how much, but we're seeing that nationwide with a shortage of drivers, with a shortage of people that are in that industry to do that work, that the costs to do that work are simply just rising. We've got this thing known as a water plant that's on the horizon, and the commission has directed us to move forward with a proposal that we received at this point. It doesn't matter really how we build a water plant. It's going to cost more to build a water plant. The rate that we have today for water rates is really structured very differently than a rate would structure if we move forward with the unsolicited project that came in that would be delivered by the private sector. So today the way we calculate rates is we have two components of a water rate. We have a fixed rate and then we have a variable rate that is based upon a volumetric number, translated the amount of water you consume. So there's a fixed rate, and then you consume a certain amount of water, and it cost per 1,000 gallons is then tacked onto that fixed rate. If we go with a firm like we are in negotiations with now and allow the private sector to build it, we will likely end up with some type of a rate that is on a take-or-pay basis. And what that means is that they will produce a certain volume of water every day, and as consumers or as providers to external customers, we either have to take that water or we have to pay for that water. So if they produce 50 million gallons a day and we only take 47, we're still going to pay for the 50 million because that's what allows them to secure the financing they need and the guarantees that they need to be able to make the project a viable project. So a couple of arguments on both sides of the fence, and I can argue both sides. Take or pay is fairly easy to calculate. People wonder why we have a fixed, in the method we have today, why do we have a fixed rate and a variable rate? And the fixed rate is what allows us to secure a certain amount of debt that we need to secure time to time to be able to improve the infrastructure in the system, and that guarantees a certain rate of return in our water system, and that's why we have that fixed component to the water rate. So between water rates, sanitation rates, and stormwater rates, those are the ones that I would just encourage that we remain diligent in watching. We're doing everything we can to keep them as low as we can, so we study our expense with great company Stantec on a very regular basis to model what's the lowest rate we can charge and still deliver the service. So keep those three things in the back of your head as you watch this budget roll out and as you move into the future, to watch those fees and make sure that they don't get exorbitant and out of control. And if they do, then that means we just need to go back to the competitive market and try again. Competition typically gets you good pricing, and so that would be the path forward if we needed to do that. City's in a great place. We're going into the summer months strong. You know, we anticipate that this could be a significant storm season, having already brushed with a whole lot of rain just a couple of, or I guess about a week ago now. We found ourselves at the saturation point during that amount of rain. And so I finally asked, it took me 6.5 years to ask, how much rain does it take to get to saturation? Now I may not need to know. But apparently what I learned is our water table is about 4 feet below the surface in most circumstances. For every inch of rain we receive, that water table rises about 6 inches. So you can tell that we get to about full saturation after we've had 8 inches of rain in a very short period of time. And so when we start to see some of these massive storms and we start to see this intense flooding that just all of a sudden seems like it happens, is because that water table probably hasn't gone back to the 4 feet that it needs to get to so that it can start to rise again. We saw a very different pattern in this last storm than we did from Tropical Storm Eta, which was the most recent storm of similar size and quantity of rain. although I don't know that I've ever seen 15 inches in a 24-hour period like we saw a week ago. But some of the things that we learned in Etta worked because we saw a very different performance in some of our neighborhoods based upon the rain that we saw last week. And we saw less flooding in neighborhoods that were significantly underwater the last time we had a heavy rain event come through the city. So I feel as though we're leaving the city in a great spot going into the summer break. The commission will take a look at their budget in July. That's going to be a really heavy meeting, July the 5th. That's their last meeting before they break. They come back on August the 16th, and then we will roll into a couple of budget hearings in September, then have obviously a fiscal year kickoff in October. Now 3 elections in November. One of those seats is open for qualifying now, and 2 additional will be open at some point in the future based upon the dates. I believe it's middle of July is where we've landed at this point, but the supervisor of elections has indicated that even though we have all those 3, that we have plenty of time to be able to get all 3 on the November ballot. So there was a question at one point as to whether we were going to be in November as well as in March, but it looks now like we can get them all in November. So that's good. So there'll be no lack of a quorum, no lack of ability to continue to serve the public. So we won't know who all is running in those races until those qualifying periods are done. We certainly wish those that decide the public services for them a successful opportunity to pursue it in that manner. And I'm confident that the 3 people that will end up replacing the 3 that we're losing will continue to advance the city forward. And that's what makes local government just so cool. So with that, let me see what kind of questions you all have tonight, what's on your mind. And I'm happy to take anything. Nothing's off limits. Well, certain things, but I'll take those on a case-by-case basis.
Barbara Haggerty from Shady Banks.
Hey, Barbara.
I would be delighted to see that trucks that are picking up our garbage go. That company has given us nothing but trouble in our neighborhood. They've leaked hydraulic fuel month after month going down the street. Today, the garbage is still out. It was pickup day today. They didn't come. I mean, the company has been like that for months. And I don't know if the commissioners know how bad they are, but I'd be delighted to go with someone else.
Yeah, so we're going to have that opportunity. And I am well aware of some of the struggles that we have with the solid waste hauling. I've had, 3 or 4 face-to-face come to Jesus type meetings with them. I'm not going to make excuses for them because they're a company that has to perform against a contract, and I get that. Some of the things that they have run into, just by way of maybe explaining some of it, is they do industry-wide again and nationwide. I hear this from managers on the West Coast. I hear it from Texas. I hear it from all over, that solid waste is a difficult thing to perform well right now because there's just not people in that industry. We're also in a unique spot in South Florida where everything we collect has to go to certain transfer stations so that it can then go to a certain landfill, because we just don't have the great expansive garbage dumps that some states have. These trucks are designed to a certain capacity, and as they collect. Typical truck will have to make 2 trips to the transfer station in their day of routes. What happens is if they get full at the end of the day and the transfer station closes, they're effectively out of business in that truck until they can take it first thing the following morning to dump. So sometimes they gamble on, let me try to get one more street done, and then that results in trash on the streets. And sometimes the landscape trucks gamble on, let me do one more set of palm fronds, and then they get full. So it is a little bit of a calculated game as to how they get full, get to the transfer station, and get back and get those routes complete. What I would tell you is that we don't have a habit of completely missing routes. So if you put your trash out on a day and it just doesn't happen to get taken, leave it there. 9 times out of 10, they will come the next day. And if in fact they don't, a quick call to us and a quick call, quick email, and we can have one of their supervisors come and do a quick spot pickup if we need to. They have little small mobile trucks that they run around in that we can get an area serviced if it happens to get missed.
Okay. Anybody, any other questions? There we go.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I have a silly question. In the budget process,
Yes.
being our city has grown, our tax base has grown, everything has grown, and we know that the parts that are not in our taxes are going to go up for our citizens, and we have a lot of people who are on fixed income, and we know trash has gone up a lot, and water's gone up a lot. Has there ever been a discussion on maybe lowering the rate to offset the other expenses that we have to live in the city?
Yeah, there has, and that discussion actually happens every year, because if your property tax digest increases and you don't roll back the millage rate, technically you've had a tax increase. And so we have to publish the fact that we can, all day long, you can say, yeah, we held the millage rate flat, 4.1193. That sounds good. But if we don't calculate the rollback rate of what it would take to actually collect the same amount of money as in the previous year, we do have to publish that we've increased taxes. So yes, that discussion has happened. I haven't had an elected body yet that has exercised a rollback. They typically don't like to increase, but I've not had one that has liked to exercise a rollback. This is not good or bad, but they all have projects they want to see get done, and when there happens to be more dollars in the budget, one option would be to say, we could roll the millage rate back, or we can talk about the Galt sidewalk, or we can talk about seawall repair on the New River and expediting that, or we can talk about those things, and typically the improvements in the community have won out, as opposed to rolling it back. But yes, the discussion happens every year.
Okay. Brucey?
I know this is another one of those questions, but the parking in this town has gone up exorbitantly. And one of the things you said, or somebody has said, is that our town is pretty rich with property taxes. And those of us who live here pay those taxes. So when you up let's say the beach parking, you triple that rate, it really is a gouge for many of us. I feel like, we pay for this city. So why do you allow this kind of gouging for the residents?
Yeah, so that parking at the beach, that was a very specific thing based upon a request to bring the Las Olas parking deck into the beach resident parking place. That was the direction we had at the time. Parking's looking right now at a resident rate that just doesn't include that deck, that goes back to where it was, which was plenty of surface places on the beach, right? And bringing that rate back. The parking fund operates independent of the general fund. So what we do in the parking fund is we look at a rate structure that offsets the cost to maintain our parking facilities, to offset the cost of the parking enforcement people, that make sure that we have people that are actually paying for the space that they're using. It operates isolated from the general fund. If it ever runs in the red, then one of the things we would have to potentially do is subsidize it from the general fund, which would then be tax dollars that maybe you all had paid as opposed to the user who's actually parking. There are more permit options than even I thought when I asked our parking group. I said, I know about the beach resident permit, but what else do we have? And we have all sorts of annual cheap permits that people can get who live here. That if they're parking consistently at the Riverwalk Center parking deck, for example, and they live here as and we changed this, either a full-time resident or a property owning resident, because not everybody is here all year long, but they do own real property, that there is an assortment of different things that exist out there that we should publish better and say, gosh, if you didn't know these existed and you could save some money.
It's almost $2 an hour for residents to park down. You keep saying you want people down on Los Olas, you want people to go to all these restaurants, and you make it really.
I don't think Chris wants them on Las Olas. So. Okay, so just remember, if you don't have a microphone, you don't get recorded. So please.
That's not true. That there is a parking program for residents. There is a parking program for residents that's only $1 something if you park. Right, so we get a discount and we charge more for other people to offset. So honestly, unless you go to the beach long enough for $70, your dollar, whatever it is, works out better. So they do try.
Okay. And I think I saw one.
I'm sorry that I had my back to you all. I've been trying to figure out how I don't have that happen, but it's a nice bag. Thank you.
Chris, what's the status of the comprehensive agreement planning between the city and the company chosen to build the new water treatment plant?
So we're still in active negotiation, and it's going to take some time. It's not something that it just happens overnight. We have 2 standing opportunities every week on Monday and Thursday when we engage with that company and bring our experts and our financial people and our financial advisors to talk about the next step and then form a game plan, execute on that plan, and then come back and report on that. We'll either get to a point that there's an interim agreement proposed, or we'll get to a point, their desire is to go straight to a comprehensive agreement. I'm looking very forward to the feedback I'll receive next week when we talk about what the rate model needs to look like to be able to move forward with that project. And I'm either, recognize where we are today, and I try to recognize reality. We're only as far with the water plant as we are today because of a 3-2 vote. And, I know that I'm even smart enough to do the math and know that as soon as it goes to a 2-3 vote, we are going a different direction. So, we'll see what happens next week when we talk about rates, and we'll see if there's still significant support to move forward. Until directed otherwise, we're full speed ahead. But I think there's still a lot of touch-in points that could alter the course.
Okay. All right. Well, we have I was going to get you something for all the times you've come to our meetings and stuff like that. But you weren't here earlier. I actually kind of spent all of our money on Dr. JJ's gift for all he did for us. Your doctor, right there. No, he's your doctor. So, yes. But I didn't want you to leave empty-handed, so I kind of went through a couple drawers in my house. So I just, I did a little bit of math. I didn't actually go back and count, but I think the 6+ years you've been here, that you actually attended 156 commission meetings.
Wow.
And so for that, I think you deserve a medal. Now, this is a precious medal. I won this, but I'll give it to you. Please put this around your neck.
Okay, and
okay, well, that's how. There you go. Now this is. Listen, no one else is going to have this in your household. And then I don't know how many of the council's meetings you went to. I didn't go back and count. I was too busy counting Dr. JJ's, and I just ran out of time. But you came to so many of our meetings. You were always answered all of our questions, just like tonight. You never lost your cool, even when, you could have. And, I really appreciate that. And so, again, I had to go back in my drawer. And I want to give you
It's like the Wizard of Oz going to the bed tree.
first prize
there you go.
for never
I'm turning
getting
into a horse.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. And
I think you need to turn around now.
oh wow.
Okay, we have to see that.
Also,
Take a picture of this.
oh no, look at a picture. Look at a picture.
gosh.
Also, because you were always on time, I think you should have 2.
Put it next to this one.
Okay. 2. So yeah. So we do need definite pictures.
Oh, yes.
Wellington, yes, you're welcome. And I actually see somebody, if you could introduce Greg to.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Because I do actually have something for him also.
I bet you do. Yeah, so it's with pleasure tonight that, as you all, I can't even stand here and be serious.
Listen.
I feel like I just won the Kentucky Derby.
You don't know how expensive these are. Right, Abby?
How much money it takes to get them?
Yeah.
Well, that's true. So anyway, I work with some pretty talented people, as you know, and you've encountered many of them, and it's been a pleasure being here and assembling a team of tremendous talent. It's also somewhat nice to know that when you say that you're going to move along, and honestly, I made a very personal family decision. I love Fort Lauderdale. I would have been here for another decade if you would have all had me. You know, sometimes you just have to make a decision that's right for family and right at the time, and therefore I have made that decision to return back to where I came from, which is just north of Atlanta. My last day here will be July 22nd, and taking over on July 23rd is current Assistant City Manager, soon-to-be City Manager, Greg Chavaria. Greg is there in the back of the room, and I'll hand this mic over to him in a second. He has had a large part in some of the day-to-day running of the city. You should all see no learning curve, no dip in the momentum moving forward, no direction change, other than I told somebody, I said, you know, he'll continue all the good things we started, he'll fix all the stuff I screwed up. If he can do that, then you're in really good hands. So why don't I officially, for the first time, and let's hope next week we get this contract adopted so I don't have to retract this, but for the first time I have publicly in front of a group introduce you to your new city manager, Greg Chavaria.
Welcome.
We have no medal for volunteer, okay?
Thank you. My name is Greg Chavaria. It is a pleasure to be here, and also I had the privilege to work for Chris, and I look forward to following his vision. He always had service first mind and always cared about the community, and so I hope that we continue that path forward, and the future is bright. As you can see, you know, Chris has worked very diligently with all department directors and us, and put us together with a plan that will certainly support the quality of life that you all experience. And we look forward to supporting you further, looking at the challenges ahead, looking at those as opportunities to work together and make sure that, you know, Fort Lauderdale is always bright and shining and an attractive place, a place you never want to leave. So with that said, thank you for the introduction, and looking forward to more.
Okay, and because I don't want you to feel left out, now, I really couldn't give you a first place ribbon yet, but here's second place, and I'm sure that
All right, thank you so much.
There you go.
All right,
Thank you
so much.
You guys don't know how precious those things really are. Thank you both for being such good sports. So, all right. Okay, moving on, we have John Sullivan. He's the Director of Legislative Affairs for the Broward County Schools, and he's here to talk to us about the proposed school board tax. And I can pass those out for you, or Bill Brown can. Okay.
He's going to be kind of fast now.
Okay. Are you good? Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Thank you I feel weird standing in front of you guys. John Sullivan, I have the pleasure of serving the school district as the Director of Legislative Affairs for the last almost 7 years. As of a couple hours ago, I just became the new Chief Communications Officer, so I'm excited for that role. In terms of the referendum, we are placing a referendum to the ballot on August 23rd. It is a renewal of our current referendum, so the current referendum was passed by the voters in 2018. It does expire. It expires next school year, so if the referendum was not renewed for whatever reason, the funding does go away if it's not renewed. The current referendum funds 3 buckets. It allows us to offer competitive salaries to our workforce, our teachers, our teacher assistants, our bus drivers, our bus driver assistants, our custodial workers, our food workers, so really the front lines. No one in administration received those funds. It's really meant for the staff that impacts the students in the front line. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is for school safety. So after the shooting, for lack of a better word, the tragedy at MSD on 214, our security apparatus that we have put up since, so about 540 safety and security personnel, we utilize the referendum to help fund those positions. I see our city officials are here from Fort Lauderdale. We're very grateful to partner with our cities to include Fort Lauderdale to provide SROs in some of our schools. In situations where we cannot do that, we have guardians, and the guardians are funded out of this referendum. The third bucket is mental health. So about 100 mental health personnel are funded in the current referendum. It's about, again, it's 100. So the renewal of the referendum would increase from 0.5 mils to a full mil. The school board felt it was important to increase it for two main reasons. One, to better compete in terms of what we're offering our workforce and supplements, because our neighbors to the south, Miami, have a 0.75 mil currently. They just announced that they're going for a full mil as well for their renewal. Also, Palm Beach has a full mil. And second, probably most importantly, the legislature has since changed the law that now we're required to share the referendum with our charter schools. So that would take about 20% of the referendum dollars. So if we were simply to renew for the same amount, it would actually be a cut of 20%. The renewal of the referendum would cover the same buckets. So we hope to not only maintain our current 540 safety personnel throughout the county, but to continue to build upon that, continue to add to the 100 mental health professionals that we were able to add to the referendum. And again, to the school district, and then to offer better supplements to our workforce to better compete with Miami and Palm Beach. Some more important information, what is it going to cost the average homeowner? So right now, the average homeowner is paying about $12.50 or so. It would go up to $23 for the average condo owner. And these are based on 2021 numbers. So this would update if the tax rolls were to increase or decrease. For the average condo owner, it's about $6.50 more a month for a total of $13. So it's not, the homeowners aren't being taxed twice. This does replace the current referendum. So I wanted to make that clear. Again, this is the only mechanism that the school board has to raise these additional funds outside of the legislative process, that they have not provided us enough funds to really cover those three buckets. I know there's a lot of noise about our 2014 SMART bond program that we call it, that we've utilized for our buildings. There's been a lot of criticism on that program. I want to separate that because that is really meant for buildings, improvements on our capital facilities, not for people. This referendum is operation, so it's for people. We can't use people money for building money. We can't use building money for people money. So I just wanted to make that clear too. So I think I highlighted everything that, and there was a third-party independent audit of the current referendum. There was no findings. We spent the 2018 referendum based on what the voters approved back in 2018. So as a school district employee, I'm not allowed to tell anyone how to vote, so that's my disclaimer. All the information is informational only and not advocating one way or another. That'd be up to the voters to decide if they want to support the referendum, realizing the benefits and the consequences. So again, if the referendum were not to be renewed, we would lose all the funding in the 2023-24 school year because the referendum expires.
I think we'll probably have some questions if you.
Sure.
Here you go.
I'm here and actually live in Fort Lauderdale, Middle River Terrace, resident for 8 years.
I'm Ed Rebholz from Lauderdale Harbor's president there. I'm a little concerned about the school board controlling costs. Now, you just said money's for building and this money is for people. Well, the common denominator is managing that money. And we all know that this $800 million was not managed correctly. Several high schools are still in, I was up at the Northeast High School, it's a disaster. You know, cracks on the walls, go in the men's room, and there's a, different colored, it's a patchwork. It's horrendous. It's not a good learning environment. So I'm a little concerned when you come and ask for more money when the enrollment is going down. So what concerns, how do you answer my concern, and probably a lot of other concern, that you can control this money better than you did the $800 million? And is there another big, for the schools that weren't done, I don't know how much money's left on that $800 million, what's left there?
Okay, let me answer the first part. So in terms of the 2014 SMART program, there was delays on the onset. So we have recalibrated the completion date to 2025. We do expect that we will complete everything as terms of the scope of work as promised. There has been cost overrun, so we would have to go outside of the $800 million into our capital reserve. So what I can tell you is there is new leadership We have a new superintendent. She's dedicated to getting the bond program back on track. She's looking for a new chief facility officer in that regard to help it go back on track. In terms of the current referendum, again, we did have a third-party audit of that, so we have managed that aspect well in terms of the operational dollars. There was no findings. We spent every dollar as we indicated in the ballot language.
Okay. John, Bill Brown, President, Central Beach Alliance. Kind of a follow-up question to the gentleman's question. This is kind of a two-part. Number one, this is the last bond that you're piggybacking on was a 4-year bond. Is this as well going to be a 4-year bond?
Yes, by law, we can only either do 2 years or 4 years, so it would be for another 4 years if it were to pass.
So if this were to pass, I see 75% of this money is going to supplemental, basically for salaries and incentives for the teachers. 4 years from now, personally, I'm opposed to using bond money for salaries. That should be an operating expense. What's the play? If this were to pass, how are you going to supplement all these salary increases 4 years from now?
So
That you
again,
keep adding on and adding on.
So again, the issue is the legislature has not provided enough funds in the funds that we see from the state. So the only mechanism that we have to offer our teacher and workforce a competitive salary so they can afford to live where they work is through this referendum. The average teacher right now is getting about $4,600 in the referendum annually. So if it was not renewed, they would lose that amount of money, and it would just make it harder for them to live where they work. And we would prefer to make it part of their salary, but unfortunately by law we can only go by 4 years, and the legislature hasn't provided us enough money to guarantee those funds without the referendum.
I have to reiterate your concern about the money not being spent correctly. Stranahan High School is in the deplorable state schools are. They never did fix it. The children used to come, the basketball team, and play in our outdoor court because their basketball court was condemned for over a year, and the school board didn't do anything about it. Also, I'd like to know the teacher salaries. These teachers work like dogs during this COVID event, and yet they've had no raises, substantial raises, for years. When are the teachers going to get some of the money that these bonds are affording?
So again, the average supplement in the current referendum is $4,600 annually. So if this referendum was not renewed, they would lose that. We give our ability to give salary increases is dependent on the legislature. They haven't allocated enough money to really allow us to give them raises within their salaries. We did give them bonuses through the ARP money or the federal stimulus dollars that we received. So anytime there's new revenue source, we do make it available to them. We agree with you, the salaries of teachers should be higher, but unfortunately, Tallahassee, we are a donor county. They take our money and then they distribute it to the other counties. So our hands are tied somewhat by the legislature, and the only mechanism we have is this referendum.
What makes up your average teacher salary? Did you get the principals and all the administrators included in that?
For the supplements, no. Principals, the starting salary for a teacher is $47,500 starting. That's the minimum salary. And we've been able to achieve that through some of the funds that we've received from the state. But administrators do not get any referendum dollars.
Okay.
Rock concert.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. If any of you want to have me in your individual meetings, I'm happy to come see.
All right, thank you. Thank you, John. Nice meeting you. Thank you. All right. Thanks. Okay, our last speaker, Portia. All right, I knew you're back there, right? And Portia Williams, she's the Assistant Director. Well, actually, I'm not going to, the department's been renamed, the Development Services Department. Did I say that correctly? Okay. And with her is Katrina Jordan, and she's an administrative supervisor in the Development Services Department. So the Sustainable Development Department is now known as the Development Services Department. I got that right. That's amazing. Okay. Are you going to use the podium? Okay, you don't want this? Well, no, just for recording's sake. Okay. That's okay. I like your dress. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Portia Williams. I'm the Assistant Director for Development Services Department. I also manage the Code Enforcement Division. We're called Community Enhancement and Compliance. Can you hear me? You can't?
Team out.
Okay. And I also manage the Community Enhancement and Compliance Division. I have Katrina here with me. We're going to talk a little bit about vacation rentals, also known as short-term rentals. The city adopted its vacation rental ordinance in 2015, and then we came back in 2017 and we changed that ordinance as well as the fee schedule. Throughout the city, with our enforcement, we have about 4 total enforcement resources dedicated. We have 1 administrator who handles the registration process. We have an administrator who handles the enforcement process, and we have 3 code officers that handle the enforcement process. We do our vacation rental enforcement 7 days a week. There is no stop to it. And on the weekends, we do our vacation rental at extended hours of 2 a.m. We do that on Fridays and Saturdays, and on Sundays, we do enforcement until 10 p.m. Katrina is going to specifically address any details of the enforcement and registration as it relates to the districts. One of the things that I like to put out anytime we attend the HOA meetings is where to send complaints into. So we have an email address that is dedicated exclusively to vacation rentals. It's VR as in vacation rental, VRinfo@fortlauderdale.gov. And what are the complaints? So if there is a vacation rental that's not registered, that's advertising, that's a complaint because vacation rentals are required to be registered with the city. If there is vacation rental where vehicles are parking outside of the driveway, that can be a complaint. If they are exceeding the maximum occupancy, which is 2 persons per bedroom, not to exceed 20, that is a violation of the ordinance. If there's trash carts left out, that's a violation. And if you're not sure but you think there's a violation, you can send a complaint in for the vacation rental. The other thing that I really like to highlight is our website, which is a tremendous resource. So if you go to fortlauderdale.gov, the www.fortlauderdale.gov/vacation rental, that page has everything from start to finish. And when I say start to finish, it has the ordinances that govern the program. It has a list of the properties that are registered. It has a list of the properties that are not registered, but that are being enforced. So you'll see case numbers. It has those lists organized by district. And then within the districts, it has them organized alphabetically. Okay. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Katrina to discuss the specifics of registration and enforcement.
Again, good evening. I'm Katrina. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am? Okay. Good evening, Katrina Johnson Jordan. I'm the administrative supervisor for vacation rentals. I was just asked to repeat the website. It's www.fortlauderdale.gov/vacation rental. And the email address is vrinfo@fortlauderdale.gov. Before I begin, do we have any HOA specific questions that I might be able to answer?
Thank you. This morning, I heard an NPR story about a change in Airbnb policy. As of July 4th, Airbnb is going to start enforcing a new policy that eliminates hosts if there have been neighborhood complaints about them. When I heard that, the first thing I thought of was you, Portia, for what a good job you've done to bring attention to the idea with the cooperation of all the neighborhoods. There wasn't enough information on the story to know just how to inform Airbnb Airbnb to get involved in the process and assist in recording complaints, but it's something I would like the city to look at more closely, because it certainly sounded to me, based on the reporting, that Airbnb was starting to respond to external pressure. And I think it's because of efforts like yours. Thank you.
Okay, somebody else.
Again, I'm Ed Ripples from Lauderdale Harbors. Portia, I want to compliment you publicly for helping us through some serious problems, and we're not done, but we want to let you know that we appreciate your efforts.
You got.
Madam President, I'd like to make a statement. My name is Michael Albetta, and I'm also the representative of District 2. Portia started this work, I'm going down to memory lane, maybe about 4 years ago, and she used to attend the the president's meeting of Commissioner Glassman. She did an extensive report that I'd never seen before ever of Airbnbs. You were there. Both of you were sitting there. I want to compliment you because it's taken fruition and it's gone further. And I know I'm repeating myself and underscoring a lot of people that said tonight, but kudos to you. You did a magnificent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
So just for clarification, you said that the house is limited to, or the residence is limited to 2 people per bedroom. So if 6 people rent a 3-bedroom house, but there's a party that night where there's 30 people that goes until 2 a.m., is that breaking the code? Is that
Absolutely. There can be no more than 20 people gathered at a property at any time, regardless of the number of sleeping occupants. So the maximum occupancy is based upon the bedrooms. If there's 3 bedrooms, it's 2 times whatever number of bedrooms. So even if it has 15 bedrooms, because we do have properties that do that, they still cannot have 30 people at the property. You can only have 20 people.
okay? So max 20, regardless of the bedroom.
And if you have say for instance, your occupancy is 6, then your maximum gathering is 1.5 times that. So it would only be 9. So even if they had 20 and they only had 6 to sleep, they are out of compliance as well.
Okay. And Portia, regarding the fees that are charged to the people when they register, who controls what the maximum amount of that fee is? Is that a city decision, or the state tell us what we can do on that?
It was adopted by the city commission.
City commission?
Yes, sir.
So what about, my understanding of this problem is it's really controlled by what's going on and what's decided in Tallahassee versus what the local governments are allowed to do. Do you feel that the city of Fort Lauderdale or other cities may have their hands tied because of what Tallahassee says you can and can't do regarding these types of situations?
For vacation rentals, the only thing we cannot do is stop them from renting. We can regulate everything that happens at the vacation rental once it is registered. The most important part is that it becomes registered, because if it does not become registered, we cannot regulate what is happening at a short-term rental property that is not registered with the city. So typically the first violation for a property will always be operating without a certificate. Once they become registered, we can then cite for the parking, the noise, the maximum occupancy, the trash carts, and we also can still cite for regular ordinances, overgrowth of the grass, if the paint is peeling, the driveway needs to be redone. We can cite them for every ordinance in the city code, and after 3 violations, we can suspend their license based upon the ordinance.
Portia,
I wanted to add, if I may, a little bit more to answer your question. So yes, there are limitations that the city does have based on the state. I think we differ greatly as Broward County in comparison to Dade County. And I think specifically the city, because our ordinance was adopted after the state preempted cities from regulating like the zoning districts that vacation rentals are allowed in, and really being able to not prohibit vacation rentals from operating. Yes, there are limitations that we have as a city because of the state. So I just wanted to add that piece. And then also with the fees, when we initially adopted the ordinance back in 2015, the registration cost was $750. We did a fee study. 2 years later, we adopted a different set of registration fees, which now is $350 for initial registration. But the other part to what we did in 2017 was the city commission took into account vacation rental owners that were actually living in their property. And for purposes of renewal, their fee is $80 for renewal for homeowner occupied, as opposed to $160 for renewal for not homeowner occupied. So when it comes to the fees, the initial model was really cost recovery. And when the city commission had us do the fee study and to find a way to reduce those fees, I think the effect on the program was that we had more proactive registration. When we started this program in 2015, it was very, very enforcement driven. We still have the enforcement driven program, but with the fees being lower, we don't have people that are really trying to not register because of the fee.
Okay. I just want to follow up on what James was talking about. This session in Tallahassee, this last session, we all dodged a bullet, because Tallahassee was going to interfere again and knock the fees down to $50. And so if they do that, all of this money that goes towards enforcement is in jeopardy. And so we ought to be very, very vigilant in this next legislative session to be on top of the activities in Tallahassee.
And we have a question over here.
Thank you. Is there a limitation to the number of days here in Fort Lauderdale for vacation rentals, such as a week, or is it no limitation?
No, sir, we cannot regulate how long a tenant stays at a property. So it could be a day.
Because my understanding is that Lauderdale by the Sea has a 5 to 6 day minimum.
I think Lauderdale by the Sea had things put in place before 2011, so they don't have the same constraints. Okay.
In a community that's only 500 homes, what would the maximum number of vacation homes be?
No, ma'am.
500.
No, ma'am, it does not. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, earlier I was going to say you got off easy, but oh, I'm sorry. You got to go like this when you're sitting back here. There you go, Rick.
Hi, I'm Rick Buchanan, Portia from Coral Ridge Isles. I know I've spoken or emailed with both of you. My question is, with the 3 citations suspension, is the suspension automatic, or is there an administrative process that has to happen before the suspension? Because I know that the property that we've talked about on 53rd Court has had more than 3 citations, and I'm not aware that they've been cited or suspended. So that's my question.
So the 3 violations will have to be 3 violations that have been cited. So if it's a complaint, that's not technically a violation. The code officer has to witness the violation, issue a citation, and then has to come before the special magistrate. So even once the 3 violations occur, it still has to come before the special magistrate. Sorry. To request the suspension. So it's before the special magistrate. He or she will make the final determination.
Okay.
So thus, it's not automatic. It does not automatically suspend.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening. You've done great work. I think we've already established that, and I thank you for all the challenges that you meet on a day-to-day basis. If someone exceeds that maximum of 3 violations, what mechanism is in place And what recourse do homeowners as well as the city have to enforce and shut them down?
So our administrative staff, again, we have an administrator dedicated to the vacation rental program, and we track any property that has a violation. Once the third violation occurs, and of course, the community always lets us know if something is happening, and we'll send out a code officer. We try to do it immediately. There was a request that came in at 5 p.m. yesterday. The code officers were on their way home. I went by on my way home just to make sure the vacation rental was in compliance. So we're always going to try to reply as quickly as possible to any complaints in the event that there is a violation. So once we see that there's a third violation, we will contact the property owner, let them know that they've reached their third violation. We will schedule them for a hearing. We also always ask the community to come and share during those hearings so that the magistrates are aware of what is going on at the property. And typically, we've suspended 5 thus far, 2 currently, and there's not been a time when the magistrate has ruled against the city. But again, it requires a collaboration between us and the community, making sure that we're noticing when these violations are happening at the property. So anytime that there's a violation, you can send us an email. There's actually a sheet that's available on the website, and I will send it to all of the HOA presidents. If you don't have it, it tells you exactly how to respond to vacation rental complaints, as well as the one for Airbnb. I don't know if they will change it, but there is a way to let an Airbnb know that there's an issue at a property. And you'll go to airbnb.com/neighbors. And there you can leave a complaint about a property that's on Airbnb. So they will get it that way. Okay, and once the property is suspended after the third violation, the property is suspended for 180 days.
All right.
Any additional violation, the 4th violation is 365 days. A 5th violation adds 30 days for each one thereafter. So it'd be 395, 425 moving forward. But the initial suspension is always 180 days.
Something else came up. Does it matter that the homeowner is not a United States citizen? Many of the properties in Coral Ridge Isles are owned by non-residents and non-citizens.
No, sir, it does not matter. The property owner is still responsible for whatever occurs at the property, no matter which state or country that they reside in.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, ladies. As always, a fantastic job. Always a pleasure to have you. All right, thank you. Okay, that concludes the speaker and guest portion of our meeting. So now we're going to move on to council business. I trust everybody has had a chance to take a look at the resolution that the board came up with as far as a new river crossing. Is everybody nodding their heads, or do I need to read this out loud? No. Okay, good. So the board made this resolution, and this is on behalf of the board. The board approved this. So if the general membership wants to approve it, somebody would need to make a motion, and it would need to be voted on. It's not necessary, but I just want to make it clear that it's a board resolution. It's not up for revision or anything like that. I also want to make it clear that we are going to have further discussions about the increase in commuter train traffic and the impacts on our city and our citizens at the September meeting, and probably other meetings too, but it's going to be a big topic for the September meeting. So people that are interested in how it's going to impact the, I think there's 66 crossings in Broward County. I'm not quite sure. I think there's 28 in Fort Lauderdale. I'm not sure that that's quite the right number. I did look at a map. So it's a significant topic. We are going to visit that and in September, at our September meeting. All right? So no comments on that. Are we all good there? If somebody wants to make a motion, they can. I'm sorry.
Power Nathan Landings Residential Association, motion to approve and affirm the board's resolution.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay.
Barbara Haggerty, Shady Banks, I'll second the motion.
I guess we have to go through the whole. Okay. Pardon? I don't know. How many people here, if you could raise your hand if you're an actual representative of your, because we had people leave, we don't know if we have a quorum. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, 11. We have a quorum. We still have a quorum. Okay. Generally, we go through the roll call for the quorum. Do you want to do that, or would you like me to do that, Louis? Pardon?
Should we have a discussion?
Well, you can have a discussion, but go. Does anybody have any remarks?
So I would recommend that the general membership does not approve this for a couple of reasons. Can you hear me now? I'm saying what I would make a recommendation to the general membership not to approve this. The board of directors wants to do it, fine, but not the general membership. And this is what troubles me here. It says a tunnel will have the least negative impact on our neighborhoods. That's not true. A low-level bridge would have the least impact. A tunnel will not just disrupt the continuous development of our downtown area as a vibrant place to live and work. I disagree with that statement as well. There'll be a huge amount of digging, and it'll be endless, and it's way too expensive. We don't know what it's going to cost, and I would just suggest that the general membership reject this.
Okay, who else? Oh, there you go.
Okay, I have concerns. How many crossings are we trying to avoid on a daily basis? What is
I apologize, what?
the number of times you have to open that bridge in the future is how many times?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head.
100. Okay. As this tunnel or bridge comes out, it's going to go on the surface again. What are we doing about the other crossroads, the Oakland Park, all those things?
Okay, that's, I think I just addressed that, but maybe I wasn't clear. We are going to address those concerns. We're keeping them separate from the tunnel or from the New River Crossing. As I just said, in September, we're going to have many speakers, hopefully from the MPO and FDOT, and come to our meeting and to discuss. And so I would like to know, I know that people are concerned about safety and the queues for the
Right.
trains and things like that. So we are going to, that's going to be addressed in September.
Okay. The other thing, now I'm from New York and Jersey and Los Angeles, been around. They all have mass transit operating, and there's some key factors that make that operate work. Do we have a master plan for Broward County? Because we're going to still be adding more people, and it's going to go vertical, just like downtown and different areas, just like Manhattan. You couldn't go into the rivers, so they went up. The people are not going to stop coming here because they'll go vertical in their housing, which we've seen. My question is, how does this fit in with the whole Broward County transportation plan?
Well, this is just a tiny little piece.
Pardon me?
It's just a small piece. It's just one part.
Does
of
it mesh the whole thing? Are we going to have a bridge to up and down the?
Well, that's a good thing to talk about in September. I mean, whether there is a bridge or a tunnel, it has to match up with the rest of the tracks. That's
Yeah.
what you know. Other than that,
Well, it's the start of a mass transit system.
correct.
What's the rest of the plan? What do we have? Do we have roads going east and west to bring people into the system?
We do want the MPO to come to our September meeting. These are great questions, and I'll make sure that they know that these are the questions
Okay. All right.
they should. I know. I just don't know.
I don't know either, and I look at how New York does it, and The investment they made over 100 years is still being used.
Correct.
So these things are very expensive. Even the new line that comes down on 3rd Avenue or 2nd Avenue, tremendously expensive, but it's going to be there 100 years.
It's a generational decision that's being made.
Okay. Thank you.
I thought I saw somebody over here.
Christina Jones.
Here we go. I'll take it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know the young man's name there, but I concur with him that I don't think that we should vote on this as the membership, because I don't understand where you guys come up with that the tunnel will have the least negative impact in the neighborhoods. That's not true. And then, of course, it will have a major impact. Not only that, and this costs more. So I have an issue with that as well. Thank you.
Certainly.
I'd like to ask the parliamentarian the procedure. If this vote were to overturn the board's decision, then the board then could not forward their resolution. It would have to come from the membership. Is that correct?
No.
So the board could still send their resolution.
That's right.
Okay, that leads me into my statement. We elect this board to serve as members of this council. We might not always agree, but we have the right to disagree. But at the end of the day, we have to support their decisions. So I think we're setting a bad precedent. If we try to overturn and vote something against the board is taken up as a resolution and sends a negative message to the council. Thank you.
I agree with precedent. The precedent was set when we took the vote, and this didn't pass. So the membership already voted and voted against supporting the tunnel. It's rather alarming that the board would then act independent of the membership and write a resolution. The resolution itself has many questionable phrases, which is not up for discussion because that's not what we're voting on.
So, Melinda Balker at Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association, and I'm the treasurer of the council. I do just want to address that point because it is something that I've been thinking about. So we had a previous vote on the locally preferred alternative for the New River Crossing. And it was motioned that it would be the tunnel as opposed to a bridge. We did ask the membership to vote. The reason we did not move forward with saying that we had a positive vote is not because the majority of the membership voted against it. It's because we had so many abstentions from the membership. So in light of the fact that we want to do a good faith vote for the membership, once again on the resolution, we are doing this vote. But to say that it actually failed would not be correct according to Robert's rules. There were only 4 associations in that vote that actually voted against the tunnel. So I just want to clarify that there were 9 abstentions, and I believe that there were 12 that voted for it. So just setting the record straight on that. I do encourage you all to vote for the tunnel. This is basically a monumental decision that will impact the community for hundreds of years. They made the right decision in 1958 when the community, by a very small margin, decided to vote for the Henry Kenny Tunnel. I'm sure we don't regret that decision today. The actual bridge that would be passed would be the size of the 17th Street Causeway. It would run miles through the city. And the tunnel is, please let me speak. I have the floor. And the tunnel is the option, though expensive, that we need our representatives to move forward with people who know the industry, who understand how to drill, and they will find out if this is something reasonable. But we need to put our support behind this tunnel. Thank you.
Rick Buchanan, Coral Ridge Isles. I I wanted to agree with the previous speaker. That's when I raised my hand because we didn't defeat the prior motion. It failed for lack of votes because of the number of abstentions. And at that time, many of us had not had time to hear from the Florida Department of Transportation at our civic association. And I remember several people said, this is the first time we've heard of this. We don't know what's going on. We need more information. And now we've had the time to get that information. I didn't get a chance to read this until I got here, but I misunderstood and thought you were going to recommend a bridge alternative, and I came with the idea of speaking against that because I believe that a bridge alternative is a short-sighted solution in the long term. And if you look at what happened last week with 15 inches of rain, imagine what it would be if we had not only additional rain or a storm, but the increase of the rise of the ocean, which we know is happening. Well, most of us know. Some people still believe it isn't, but it appears to be happening. So if we're thinking about 20 years from now, 30 years, 100 years from now, we're going to be in a different situation. And I think the tunnel is the most long-term, forward-looking solution, and I support the board's action.
Paul Renison, Landings Residential Association. Can you hear? Can you hear me? Yeah, hello. I just want to highlight the fact that I'm here representing my association, and our president was one of those abstentions that are being talked about tonight. She did her due diligence. She would not vote in favor or against because she wanted our community, to the last person, to know what was going on before she would vote as we're going to be asked to vote tonight. So I think it's very fair, and I appreciate the treasurer bringing that to our attention. And I think you should think of yourselves as voting not for yourselves, but voting for your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Amen.
Clearly, this is a very passionate and contentious issue. I just wanted to clarify that the board, which you elected, gave great consideration to this, and we went back and forth a number of times. And what we decided in the end was simply to make the statement that we believe a tunnel is the best solution for the specific reasons that we gave. It's not the best solution because it's the cheapest solution. It's not the best solution because we love a tunnel versus a bridge, but for the very specific reasons that it will not cut off neighborhoods, because we're a neighborhood-oriented group, and it will not impede the development of downtown, which is very important for all of us, not only for economic reasons, but for livability reasons. We didn't say the tunnel is, going to cost less, or the bridge is going to cost more, or we didn't make any of those, and we didn't try to box anybody in. We tried to be broad enough in our discussion so that all we're saying to the group that is going to make the decision, which is the county, not even the city is going to make this decision, that for the reasons that we've stated, a tunnel, is better for those reasons. So I think the board did an excellent job and sweated this one out. And but I appreciate the fact that the membership wants to, voice its opinion on it. And if the vote is that you don't want to support the board's resolution, that's fine. I mean, there's no harm, no foul. But if you want to support the board's resolution, either because you think it's a good resolution, that a tunnel doesn't destroy neighborhoods and doesn't destroy downtown, or you want to vote against it because you have a particular perspective in terms of the dollar values or other options, that's what democracy is all about. So I move the question.
Okay, we are going to vote.
And I think I'm gonna need this.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the commission has already made the recommendation.
They have.
They have. This recommendation of the resolution only goes to the council, correct?
Goes to the county. Goes to the county.
Goes to the
Yeah.
county. It goes to the county.
Yeah.
So then, if it fails, and we don't support it, we're opposing what the commission said up to it. In essence.
In essence.
Yeah.
Yep. That's correct. I guess I can do this. No, I can't. Why won't this go on?
Question's been called. James, the question has been called.
Yeah, we're gonna vote now.
I'm really confused right now.
Okay, so the board has made this resolution. It is not up for being edited. It is from the board. It is not something that I would say the general member, I don't know how the vote's gonna go. But a lot of times, organizations will be a vote and they'll say the entire general membership voted and whatever it is, it passed. And sometimes they'll put the count in, sometimes it's unanimous. But if, the general membership doesn't vote for it, or however the general membership votes, then they're just not supporting, or they're not, I would not be able to say, if they send it to the county, that it's from the general membership, I'll say that it's from the board.
Madam Chair, the question has been called. Take to the vote, please.
Okay.
Thank you. No more discussion.
Let me try to get it. Okay, this is easier for me to use. You want me to do this? Okay. I don't think these people are here. Ball Harbor, Bermuda Riviera. You say, I'm very hard of hearing. So. Okay, thank you. Beverly Heights. Birch Park, they're not here. Central Beach Alliance.
Support the board resolution.
Okay. Cooley Hammock, they're not here. Coral Ridge Country Club Estates.
Support.
Coral Ridge Association.
Support.
Coral Ridge Isles. Coral Shores. Is that, he was just here. One. Croissant Park. Dolphin Isles. Downtown.
Yes.
Edgewood Civic. Flagler Village. Galt Mile. I thought that's who you were. Golden Heights. Golden Heights? I must have left. Harbordale Civic.
Support.
Harbor Beach. Harbor Inlet. Historic Dorsey.
Support.
Home Beautiful. Idlewild. Imperial Point. Lake Air. Lake Ridge.
Support.
Landings.
Support.
Lauderdale Beach. Lauderdale Harbors.
Support.
Lauderdale Isle Civic.
Support.
Lauderdale Manors. Okay. Melrose Manors. Middle River Terrace. Not here. Nurmi Isles. Palm Air.
Based on the association vote, do not support.
Okay, thank you. Poinsettia.
Does not support.
Point Siena, they're not here. Progresso. Rio Vista, not here. River Garden Sweeting.
Support.
Riverland Preservation. River Oaks. River Landings. Riverside Park. Rock Island.
Support.
Sailboat Bend. Let me see. Seven Isles. Shady Banks, Sunrise Intercoastal, South Middle River,
Based on the vote of my association, we are abstaining.
Tarpon River,
Support.
Victoria Park.
Support.
Oh. Okay, so 23 yes, 3 no, and 1 abstain. So the general membership supports the board's resolution. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, next is a few really announcements. We're putting together on August 9th, that's going to be our next meeting, and will actually be a candidate forum. You probably heard me say that ad nauseum. It's going to be at the L.A. Lee Y on Sistrunk Boulevard. It's just a fantastic building. I can't tell you how great it is. And we're going to have it in the Victory Black Box Theater. It'll be for the judicial candidates. I think we already have 15 of them that have said. And I don't know how many of the school board yet. But it should be a fantastic event. We are going to have a little reception beforehand. I might be looking for some associations to help us with the food. I'm not quite sure how we're going to work that yet. But myself, Michael Albetta, Colleen Lockwood, and Christine Curry are working on this. We will need some volunteers that night, so, people do timers, and I'm not quite sure, just, get reception and things like that. So it's if nothing else, if you're not interested in those races, at least come see the building and have some food, because the building is just terrific. And
So YMCA. YMCA.
Did you hear that? Is that what you're at? Okay, the L.A. Lee YMCA on Sistrunk. It's really, we put the invitation out to anybody that's part of the council. I would never really turn anyone away, but I'm not going to put it in the newspaper. It holds 200 people. I'd be thrilled if we filled it up, so.
Mary, do we have a moderator?
Yes.
We do for part of it, yeah.
Second part, yeah, there's 2 moderators. There's one for the judicial and there's one for the school board. Colleen is picking the school, is picking the school board, and we have the moderator for the judicial. Yeah.
Can't remember his name right now.
David Kennedy.
Kennedy.
David Kennedy.
Yeah. Okay, then, yeah.
So, John Herbst, former city auditor, candidate for District 1. Are you doing commissioners?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we're going to do them in October. And right now, I have it as October 11th, but I'm probably going to be a little later in the month.
Mary, based on what Natalie said, that's really too late. I've already voted on that.
So most people get their mail-in ballots. So when we look at the last commission race, I would say 90% of the people that voted did it by mail-in ballot. So by the time you get to that point, you're going to do it.
Well, maybe we could do this one.
We'll go into discussion.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. If it's too late, when the commissioner said that, I went, oh, that is only like the week before. So let us figure it out. What we might do is switch the September meeting around.
Yeah.
Get a list of them.
Well, you'll get the list. There'll be a list. We will send it to you. You know how you get the constant contact and how you get the email from us? You'll get all that information. So maybe we will switch that. It might make more sense.
In September.
Yeah.
Yep.
We might do that. Okay, John? Yeah, I know.
I've been sitting up there for 16 years. I can give you a little more.
Be careful what you wish for. Okay, so we might switch those around. All right, you got that. All right. And then now if we could have the treasurer's report. Hello. No worries.
So let me just quickly go to treasurer's report. And
I don't think your mic is on. Did you get that?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, it loses works. Okay, so I sent the report earlier to the board. Let me just pull it up quickly here. As you guys all know, we've got several accounts. Our primary account is at Truist, and then we also hold monies in our PayPal account, so just bear with me. Okay, so as of today, June 14, the total in our Truist account was $12,222.20. The total in the PayPal account was $3,649.67. We still do have a payment due to Mary Peliquin of $623. We have, with that liability, a net of $15,248.56 in the council treasury. Since I last spoke to the membership, which was back on May 10, we did have Mass District, did pay $100 for a non-voting business membership. Attached to my treasurer's report is always the membership payment renewal ledger, and we are now at 50 paid members, which is great for mid-June. I'll take any comments or questions.
It's terrific to have 50. That's the most we've ever had, so that's terrific. I always do this. I skipped over the minutes. Everybody should have received the minutes. And any comments or corrections or concerns? Anybody want to move to approve? Okay, Rick Buchanan moves, and a second.
Second.
Okay, Brucey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Somebody's being smart. Okay. Any old business? No old business. Anybody have anything spectacular happen in their neighborhood that they want to talk about? I know the last time we talked about Lake Ridge. Anybody? Okay. And okay, here.
We installed about 6 months ago, installed a license plate reader camera on the entrance of Lauderdale Harbors, and our crime went down the first quarter more than we've ever seen it. And we're getting reports, they're finding all kinds of people going up and down Cordova Road with stolen cars with improper plates that were stolen off another car and put on theirs. So it's very interesting information. And according to the police chief, they've helped conclude 2 murders in the last 6 months.
Wow.
So it's a very unique system. It's very fast. They can read 3,000 license plates a minute. And when it matches a file up in the sky, it alerts that police department. So we're getting some good results. I just want to spread that word. We had to buy them ourselves, but we partner with Rio Vista because we have a common south entrance. And we were looking at $70,000. It wound up to be $12,000 because they saved a bunch too. So work with your neighbors, it works out.
Wow, that is good news. Bill.
It's been good for the community or no? Okay, Bill Brown, President, Central Beach Lions. I'd like to propose to the board for discussion that we look at recognizing city employees at the annual Neighbors Night Out, the common worker, the ones that work for the street department or the sewer department, just like the gentleman you saw in the news that gets up every morning at 4 o'clock a.m. and cleans the beach. But there's a lot more of those out there in city government. And I would like that each neighborhood or civic association sponsor or nominates and we recognize from each neighborhood or neighborhood association at our Neighbors Night Out here at City Hall, those individuals that we select. And I'd be willing to help work on that too.
That's a great idea. And you're talking about when they have the event in the garage, is that neighborhood support night? Okay. I can think of the couple in Coral Ridge, so, okay. I think we're good. I move to adjourn. We have a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Good night, Irene. Thank you all too for a good meeting. That was a good meeting. Thank you. All right.